Hey everybody, welcome back to another BrainScratch Commentaries. Continuing on where we left off with the Advance trilogy. I only recorded 2 games, I'm sorry. We are now getting to the second game in the lineup. This is Sonic Advance 2. More characters, more speed, more advanced than ever. Well, not really. It's still technically the game.
All right, so we're advancing the trilogy.
I was gonna say, wait, is it really more characters? But then I remember Cream the Rabbit exists, so
Yep.
yeah.
This is Cream the Rabbit's debut.
Oh, I forgot you had to unlock the characters.
Technically, Cream the Rabbit's debut was in Sonic Adventure 1 DX, but
Shut up.
I think technically, the first appearance was in the Sonic Mega Collection for the trailer for Sonic Advance 2.
Yeah.
Oh man, so Sonic Advance 2 is a game that, like, I enjoy the first 4 levels, but as a kid, I could never do that one jump because I never knew that you could do that stupid thing.
The trick system, yeah.
I want to say right off the bat that I really like the visual style of Sonic Advance 2. I feel it takes advantage of the Game Boy Advance's graphical style better than Advance 1 did, which was just kind of like trying to recreate the classic Sonic aesthetic style. Whereas here, everything is very angular and extreme, and it looks like a Toe Jam and Earl level, and I love it.
Like, the design mentality for Advance 1 was, let's put a Genesis game on the GBA. This game is, let's make a Sonic game for the GBA.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say this is probably the most contentious of 3 games. Because people either love this game or they hate it. And like, there's no in-between from what I've seen.
It does kind of exist in an awkward middle ground between Sonic Advance 1 and Sonic Rush.
This is, for all intents and purposes, where, for a lack of a better description, the whole right to win meme started.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. Again, we had mentioned this earlier. It's just a different kind of game. And granted, I can understand why people who really enjoyed the classic Sonic playstyle were, oh, you accidentally found one of those rings. Good job. People who really enjoyed the classic Sonic playstyle probably felt a little bit, left out because it felt like there was nothing for them. But with that said, like, I think that the very fast-paced, you're reacting to the level and going through it kind of like a... I mentioned this in the in the Generations commentary, but when you're playing through Sonic games like this, it almost feels like a rhythm game where you're reacting to the stage as you go and trying to make that perfect run. That's, I think, like, this in the 3D games and the 2D games starting here really have that flow. And if you go for it with that mindset, I think that there's still a lot of fun. It's just, you can't play it like the Genesis games.
I get where you're coming from with the rhythm game comparison, but I don't think it completely works, because when you're playing a rhythm game, it's not just the visuals that you're responding to, it's also the rhythm and the tempo of the music you're listening to. And as you get used to the game, you start to be able to just, like, not even as you remember the songs, but as you get used to the way the game controls and plays, you start to be able to sort of mentally predict what the button inputs are going to be doing in response to the music that you're listening to, rather than just what you're seeing on screen.
It's not a perfect analogy, but that's just like the closest thing I can think of for sure. It's a certain kind of headspace.
It's more like a protracted quick time event.
I will agree, though, that more than any of the 3 games, Sonic Advance 2 is a game of memorization.
Yeah.
If not just a means of clearing the stage as fast as possible, but to go into the Chaos Emeralds, knowing where the special rings are. But we can save that.
Oh, wow.
For later.
Cream was actually calling Sonic Mr. Sonic as early as Sonic Advance 2. I remember we brought this up in, like, the Generations playthrough, where Gareth noted that she called him that in the dialogue changes.
For some reason, that pop-up looks like a place. You can now play as the strongest character in Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, pretty much. Destroyer of bosses.
Yeah. So Sonic Advance 2. Yeah. So Sonic Advance 2 is the debut of Cream the Rabbit, and she is pound for pound categorically, like, just in terms of just completing the game, the best character, because she not only has like Tails' flight, which is not as she can't fly as long as Tails. I did notice that when playing around with all the characters.
She flies faster though.
She does fly faster, but that's not what people know her for. People know her for the walking death ball that's floating around her. That's Cheese. That's her Chow.
Cheese the Chow is too powerful, and that grinding animation is too powerful.
Yeah, it is the most adorable thing.
I'm pretty sure that Cream doesn't even really like run any slower than Sonic. Like, I think Sonic technically has the highest base speed, but it's really not that noticeable.
Well, I mean, in the end, everyone is beholden to the physics system, and everyone speeds up when they go downhill and stuff. So you're going to be going redonkulously fast regardless of the character's base stats. But, you know, it might just take you a few nanoseconds extra to get there if you're playing as someone other than Sonic. Oh no.
Just looking at this level design again, because I haven't played Sonic Advance 2 since I was a teenager. When you know about the trick system, the game definitely looks like a lot more fun.
Yeah, the awkward thing about Sonic Advance 2 for a lot of people was that a lot of people either did not read the manual or did not have the manual when they bought the game used in a bargain bin.
I didn't. My first playthrough of this game was via emulator because I didn't have a GBA immediately when it was released, but I did know of emulation at the time, and I learned, oh, there are Sonic games in the GBA. I have to play them. And of the three, I played Advance 2 the most because Advance 2 I found the most fun. Which is why, just to go into general opinion here real quick, this is personally my favorite of the trilogy, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain because I'll be the first to say Sonic Advance 2 is style over substance. Like, this is a game that is all about speed.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, though. You know, this is exhilarating to watch.
Right. But I'm also the guy that, like, constantly praises classic Sonic for not only having speed, but giving me, you know, substance in the level design itself, for rewarding curiosity and exploration with hidden rings or hidden items and that sort of thing. Sonic Advance 2 de-emphasizes that entirely. But it also tries to have its cake and eat it too, though, in the most clumsy way possible. But go ahead.
The fucking rings.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is that, like, when you lean this far into speed, you're giving up other functions of game design that were pretty fundamental to the way previous Sonic games played. And the result of that is that every level, after a while, starts to feel like the same level with a different coat of paint.
You want to know what a big part of that is, though? Is because most levels, except for Sky Angel, are built on a decline.
Yes.
You start from the highest peak, and you are constantly going down.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like, they wouldn't really nail the element of making this sort of high-octane, speed-focused version of Sonic work until Sonic Rush. I think, like, in Sonic Advance 2, the levels feel a bit too homogeneous overall. And in Sonic Advance 3, they tried to mix in platforming, and they did it a little too clumsily, so it feels a little bullshit all the time. At least a little bullshit all the time.
Hey, do you like trying in your boss fights? May I not recommend Cream the Rabbit? Because you're supposed to, like, have to run up to him, catch... Oh, this is another thing about Sonic Advance, too, is that all the bosses are in this chase style. Which I appreciate the attempt, because it does make the bosses feel more quick. I feel like
energetic.
Yeah, it does make them feel energetic, but it does also present the same problem that the level design does, and that the bosses, after a while, all feel like slightly different flavors of the same soda.
I feel like the 3D games do this a little bit better. The Boost games do the.
I don't think so. I think the chase bosses in the Boost games also had a tendency to feel homogenous. They just didn't wear out their welcome in the same way because there were fewer of them, and you had the werehog bosses and stuff in the middle, mixing things up.
Not that 3D Sonic bosses have ever been stellar. to be
Yeah,
fair,
the
but,
3D Sonic bosses do have a tendency to be a little weak sauce if they aren't Egg Viper.
But you were mentioning before, like, style over substance. I think that, you should try to evaluate games by what they're trying to be and not necessarily by what you want them to be. And if you don't, let me caveat, if you don't want a game to be something, that's fine, but you should probably play something else.
Yeah, but you see, when I'm trying to, I'm supporting John's argument on that merit too, because like I say, they didn't really get the speed and spectacle version of 2D Sonic down until Sonic Rush.
I will agree there for sure.
Yeah, the level design in Sonic Rush, say what you want about the boost formula and the way the physics work and all, but the level design in the Sonic Rush games feels more diverse than the level design here.
For better or worse.
Yeah. I also think, though, is that there is a world where we can have both styles of games. Like, you can like Devil May Cry and Dynasty Warriors.
Oh, yes.
Same way that you can like boost Sonic and classic Sonic.
For sure. But the thing is, like, I want to say until very recently when... And I think the only series off the top of my head that I can say is doing this is Sonic the Hedgehog and the Legend of Zelda. We haven't really seen developers actively making multiple styles of game within the same franchise at the same time, because there's a bit of marketing air quotes wisdom that says a franchise should focus on one thing as its main gimmick and not dilute itself, I guess. So the result is when franchises do multiple things at one time, one of those multiple things is always going to be lesser because there's less focus on it.
I disagree with that, especially like
I disagree
I know why
too, but that's just what they do.
I know it's like, because growing up in the handheld console divide era of like the 2000s, where you generally had like one thing on handhelds for a franchise and a different thing on consoles. And the cool thing about it was that you got to see different sides of the franchise and older things didn't go away. Like, you got to keep 2D Mario and have 3D Mario. You could have, 2D Sonic and 3D Sonic. You could have exploration top-down Zelda and more like adventure-y 3D Zelda. Like, that's awesome. You get to see more variety of the franchise.
Yeah.
And as game development gets more expensive and we have fewer consoles, that just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, and you see, one of the delayed effects of the shift over to a merged portable console experience with the rise of the Switch and the Steam Deck is that we're actually starting to see both of those. We're starting to see the multiple design mentalities appear on the same platform under somewhat similar budgets for the same hardware. So we aren't having Nintendo outsource Echoes of Wisdom to Capcom or anything. They did that shit themselves for once, and it was really good. It was really damn good. And now we're at a place where the Zelda series can have, the classical top-down Zelda with new ideas and the big time-consuming open-world Zelda with new ideas at the same time.
I have to say, the staring at that ring like it knows what it did. I have to laugh.
Well, there was a monkey badnik that I was staring at for a bit there because of just how fucking clumsily placed it was in the middle of the level.
Yeah, I think these, again, like we mentioned here, that this game is more just about speed, and that's fine. It's good to have a game about that if that's what it's doing. What it shouldn't do. This is not a game where you are where the level design allows you even to search everything to try to find 7 easily missable little collectibles.
Because this is a game that is more often than not impossible to backtrack in.
Like, oh yeah, you missed that thing in the air you didn't know was there. Fuck you.
The real issue with the 7 rings is that you need to get them all in one go.
Yes.
You can't die.
It is absolutely fucking worthless if you just get 6 of them and miss one. You have to start over. You need to specifically find the specific route through each act that gets you all 7 rings.
And it can honestly, it's hard enough if you're not a practiced Sonic player, like if you aren't an expert at these games, playing some of these stages deathless is not easy, you know? Like...
Look, this kind of the seven rings aren't just irritating on their own merits. They're also irritating on the merits that it's basically impossible, or it was at the time, because this was before internet video became such a big thing. It's basically impossible, and even for a while, it was hard to record Game Boy Advance games. It's like you can't even guide dang it this because it's not like they can sell you a text-based strategy guidebook that tells you the route you should take. You're not going to be able to follow that shit.
Yeah, I think there was like in Nintendo Power, there was a map of like the first zone, so you could like look at that, and even then, like the stages are big, so it's hard to find them because the rings are so small.
After the second loop, that they're all loops. It's like what the fuck are you talking about? No, so the jump a bit ahead here, I will show off like getting 7 rings in hand. For one X specifically later down the road, and I accomplished that just by looking at a level map, like looking at a level map and just charting a course, and going about my merry business.
What you do is you drop a level map into Microsoft Paint, and you draw a big red arrow through the route you're supposed to take, and then you miss one of the rings anyway, because fuck this game. They did fix the concept somewhat in Advance 3. Because in Advance 3, you don't need to get all of the Chow in one go. You just need to get all of the Chow eventually.
Yes. For all my words I have with Sonic Advance 3, I will legitimately, sincerely give it that. Because they did improve that. I wish it was just go through a checkpoint or I just have 50 rings somewhere or a giant ring, because I have no idea why throughout all 3 games they made getting the Chaos Emeralds the biggest pain in the dick that they decided on. Compared to any other game in the series.
Advance 2 is definitely a case of if you're playing it once every, while for the octane boost, like, awesome game. And if you're trying to 100% it, fuck no.
All right, we'll continue our conversation in the next part. Have a good night.